Well, hello guys, what is up? My name is David, but you can call me Dave if you can't pronounce that. And welcome back to my channel, where today I am going to be talking about the Dutch trans scare and why it's absolute shit. So first of all, I have to mention that on Sunday I went to a trans protest in Amsterdam, and I'm going to insert some clips of that. So I like to be an activist and go to every possible protest there is to show how much I care about my own rights and the rights of my fellow trans people. So yeah, a lot of you outside of the Netherlands might think that this is some kind of rainbow paradise where LGBTQ people are being treated as equal to cis het people and where everything is just perfect and gay and woohoo. And I mean, it's understandable to think that because same-sex marriage was legalized here in 2001, which is already 21 years ago. And well, in comparison to other countries, we have it relatively good here. I mean, when I look at Poland, I would much rather stay in the Netherlands than go back there. But however, there's one big juicy but. The trans scare in the Netherlands is not so great, and there's this one facility called the VU, which is in Amsterdam, which is the biggest trans hospital, and the waiting lists to get there to even start the psychological transition are 2 to 3 years, which is unimaginable if you are a trans person literally dying from dysphoria, hating yourself, and just wanting to know what's wrong with you and just wanting to fix that. And then you have to wait for 3 fucking years to talk to an expert who then gets to decide if you are trans enough or not to start transitioning, which is not okay. And I would like to talk about my experience now. So I came out in 2018. I will show you a picture of what I looked like back then. They're very beautiful. So yeah, I came out in 2018, and of course I wanted to start transitioning, but I was very scared to come out to my parents because I thought they would react in a negative way, and well, I was right. They basically denied that I was trans. They just said, no, you're not, for a few years. And back then I was also being treated from an eating disorder, but that's a whole different story. I can talk about that in another video if you want. But yeah, so I was already taken care of by a psychologist, but well, they did not specialize in trans issues, of course. But I did tell them that I felt this way, but they just said that that's not important right now and that I had to get healthy first, which is completely understandable, but it was a big issue for me, the fact that I was trans, and they just said, now we'll deal with it later. And for me, it was not something I could deal with later, I had to deal with it now. So yeah, they just completely ignored the fact that I wanted to use he, him pronouns and my chosen name. But then in 2019 it was already, they told me that if I reached my goal weight, they would put me on a waiting list for the gender team in Eindhoven, which is where I live. So I did just that, and they said that they put me on a waiting list, which later turned out not to be true. So then they told me they actually did not put me on a waiting list because they wanted to wait some more time, I guess. But they told me and my parents that they had put me on a waiting list. By the way, my parents still were not really supportive back then. I mean, they still aren't, but they are less of an issue now. But yeah, so they told me and my parents that I was put on a waiting list, but I wasn't. And my parents already said yes to that because they, they thought it's just a psychologist, nothing will happen. They'll just probably tell her that she is not trans and the issue will be gone. So yeah, when I actually got on a waiting list, it was already the end of 2019, and I got on the waiting list for the VU, which is in Amsterdam. But then after like half a year of waiting, we got an email in which they said that they don't accept people under 16 anymore, and I was 15 back then, 14 even. So they had to put me off of the waiting list and onto another waiting list for the gender team in Eindhoven and the hospital in Nijmegen, which I am transitioning at right now. So yeah, they put me on another waiting list, and before I had my first appointment, it was September 2020. So I came out in 2018, at the beginning of 2018, so it took more than 2 years to even go to a gender therapist. And then that's not the end of it. So I was at the gender therapist and we had some appointments, and yeah, they quickly realized that I might potentially show signs of gender dysphoria, which I already knew, of course, but they just wanted to be sure. So yeah, I was 15 back then, so my parents had to be involved, of course, because that's just the law, basically. And yeah, after 3 months, they said, you know what? We're not sure if you're really trans, so let's just continue with these appointments for another 3 months. Which, well, I had already told them anything they could possibly need as proof that I was trans enough, but apparently it wasn't enough for them. So yeah, it was May 2021 already when they said that, because there was a break, because there was a lockdown, so of course I could not go to a psychologist because apparently Teams doesn't exist. And yeah, so that was in May. And then there was summer holidays, so of course they didn't work because psychologists have to go on holidays, and mental illness takes a break too, of course, in July. And then in October of 2021, they told me that I did have gender dysphoria, and they gave me the diagnosis. And they said that between 4 and 8 weeks, the endocrinologist from the hospital in Nijmegen will contact me. So I waited for 4 weeks, nothing happened. I thought, okay, 4 to 8 weeks, so I can wait a bit more. But then 5 weeks went by, 6 weeks went by, 7 weeks went by, 8 weeks went by, nothing happened. So I messaged my psychologist asking her what's going on. I was supposed to get a call from the hospital, I did not. So apparently they just forgot about me. She said that they actually forgot about a patient waiting to get treatment. So yeah, I got my first appointment at the endocrinologist in January, so literally a month ago. Well, I came out in 2018. And then, to make things even better, in the Netherlands you are allowed to start testosterone at 16. You can find that information on the internet. So I thought, well, I will have the appointment, they will take my blood, and in like maybe a month I could start T. But what they don't tell you is that apparently there's this thing in the Netherlands that you have to be on hormone blockers before you go in T. So yeah, technically you can go in T at 16, which I am most likely going to, because I'm turning 16 in May and I'm starting testosterone in March if everything goes well. So yeah, they just basically don't tell the whole truth. They tell patients, yeah, you can start testosterone, but first you have to go on this, which has more side effects than actual effects. So I'm gonna talk about that in another video, by the way. I was supposed to talk about trans care. So yeah, like I said, trans care is just not great here. And also, I just don't get why we are supposed to prove to cishet people that we are trans enough so that they decide whether we get the care we need. So, for example, non-binary people are often seen as not trans enough, even though they sometimes want hormone treatment or, for example, top surgery, but they have to lie to the psychologist that they are in fact trans to get the treatment they need. Even I had to pretend I'm perfectly mentally stable. How can I be mentally stable if I literally hate my body? But you know, I had to say, nah, I'm just trans. Other than that, nothing wrong with me. So yeah, in maybe a month and a half, I will finally be able to start tea. But I know there's a lot of people out there who have to wait even more than I did to get the care they need, because waiting lists are getting longer and longer. So for you out there, you will get there eventually, and I hope it gets better here. Well, we have come to the end of this video. It is very long, but I hope you enjoyed my little rant about trans issues and why I hate it here. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!